Alright, ladies and men who consider themselves somewhat gentle, welcome back to the channel. Have Arsenal just gone and bottled their title chances as they draw 3-3 at home to Southampton in tonight's Premier League action? And yep, a frantic game from the first minute to the last. Obviously, that goal from Carlos Alcaraz in the first 30 seconds of the game, providing a shock to the Arsenal players and fans' systems overall, as well as everyone else, to be fair. And all the way up to the 90th minute when Bukayo Saka gets that 90th minute equaliser to snatch a point from the bottom of the table, Southampton. And yeah, basically in this video, I'm going to be going through this game overall, the performance of Arsenal, briefly onto the performance of Southampton obviously as well, and overall where it leaves Arsenal in terms of their title challenge in the Premier League this season against Manchester City. And yet with 6 or 7 games left to go, will Arsenal be able to clinch themselves their first Premier League title since 2004? So yeah, we'll get straight into it. But first of all, subscribe to the channel, do it absolutely with immediate effect. Hit that big fat juicy succulent subscribe button. You'll be an absolute legend in helping me get there as soon as bloody possible to 3,000 subscribers. And yeah, leave a like on the video if you do want to enjoy as well, and hit that fucking notification bell while you're at it as well. I don't know why that was so overly aggressive, but yeah, we'll get straight into this video now, I suppose. So yeah, we start off obviously analysing this individual game, and in terms of actually describing it as a whole, to be fair, I'd struggle, to be honest, because yeah, it was a game of different phases. The first phase being Southampton causing a shock to Arsenal's system, with Carlos Alcaraz with that first goal inside the first 30 seconds from that obviously mistake from Ramsdale, a poor pass from him. And yeah, Ramsdale, a player who in recent weeks I have defended, to be fair, because I do think he is quite an underrated goalkeeper, and I still stand by that despite the mistake today. And given the fact it was probably his first defensive error that I can remember that's led to an opposition goal for quite some time now, which is why I will cut him a little bit of slack in terms of that one. And getting caught asleep, which obviously meant Southampton did take the lead inside 30 seconds, and then 2-0 inside 14 minutes with Theo Walcott scoring against his former club. And I think the second goal was the epitome of Southampton's performance, especially going forward in possession, where I think they really exploited Arsenal's weakness as well in possession in terms of being direct. And obviously Arsenal, with the absentees of William Saliba, who defensively was obviously missed and has been for a number of weeks now, even though Rob Holding's come in and done a decent enough job to a certain extent. Obviously William Saliba is a different breed of baller altogether, and in terms of his defensive ability is obviously naturally a better defender than Rob Holding, I think it's fair to say, and his ability on the ball contributes massively to Arsenal's build-up play, which cannot be underestimated as well. And Granit Xhaka as well, who was massively missed in that Arsenal midfield, replaced by Fabio Vieira today, who I think really struggled, to be honest. And I think Vieira is the example of a player who's come into the Premier League from the Portuguese league in the summer from Porto, and has struggled to ultimately adapt instantly to the intensity of the league overall, maybe in terms of the speed and in terms of the physicality overall as well, because he does seem like in his frame he's a little bit frail overall. So that could be something that probably needs to be worked on in the summer if he is going to adapt in the Premier League for Arsenal. And I think he really struggled today, and I think it's even fair to say that naturally, even though Xhaka hasn't been the most reliable defensively over the years for Arsenal, I think it's no question whatsoever that he is more tactically adept to defending than Fabio Vieira is. And that was obviously one of the main reasons why Southampton were so capable of going forward in their direct style. And yeah, I think that they really earned themselves that 2-0 lead, and I think really came out of the blocks really quickly. Then 20 minutes into the game, Martinelli gets them a lifeline, scoring from that cutback from Saka, and then at that moment on you're thinking, okay, Arsenal, they're just going to go on and win this game comfortably now, 3-2 or 4-2 or maybe even 5-2. But that wasn't quite the case, because Southampton made that tactical change at half-time, bringing on Lianco for Carlos Alcaraz, the scorer of the first goal, who, to be fair, I actually think had quite a decent game, to be fair. And it was like Ruben Selles was just shutting up shop almost for the second half, and just allowing Arsenal to, have a go at them really, and just thinking, you know what, we've got this game in the palm of our hands, we're going to just set up with a fucking 5-4-1 block and yeah, beat us if you can, basically. And overall it did work until the 88th minute, and yeah, Duje Chaleta Sarr getting that third goal, the nail in the coffin at that time, or so it seemed anyway, giving them that 3-1 lead. And at that moment you're thinking the belief has just been sucked out of these Arsenal players and the fans as well in an instant really, and you're thinking the title challenge is slowly creeping away from this Arsenal team. And until the 88th minute, when Martin Odegaard steps up to the plate, drives in the shot from outside the box, makes it 3-2, gives them belief and gets the fans back on side. And then Saka obviously ensues limbs with that 90th minute equaliser, and then a few shots afterwards from Trossard, etc., which could have won the games for Arsenal, but in the end they will treat it as probably a loss, given the fact that before the game they were expected to win this game comfortably. comfortably. And yep, overall, like I said, I think Southampton were decent in terms of defending against Arsenal. I think Arsenal were poor in the final third in terms of they didn't really create too many big chances until the second goal from Odegaard. And the second goal from Southampton's perspective is one that can just happen, to be fair, a shot from outside the box, and then the third goal probably more than likely doesn't happen if that second goal from Odegaard doesn't happen in the first place. So you're thinking Southampton, they'll be disappointed themselves as well. Overall, I think it's a point that neither team would have really wanted given the context of the game. But in terms of Arsenal's performance, like I said, even though I think it showed vulnerability from Arsenal, and they have showed that in recent weeks, and I think it's to a certain extent them crumbling in this title race, like I said they would do for a number of weeks now, but I'll get onto that in just a minute. And yeah, like I said, even though I think Arsenal did crumble mentally to a certain extent in this game, I think they definitely showed bottle getting themselves back into the game and getting a point from the game so late. And I think Martin Odegaard was the most important player in that, obviously being Arsenal's captain, wearing the captain's armband and leading by example in terms of the fact that he really stepped up in the last moments of the game, getting that goal and yet just driving the team forward and yet really giving it a go for this Arsenal team and yet leading from the front to get them that equalising goal late on in the game. But yeah, like I said, just in terms of how the title race now pans out, Arsenal currently on 32 games played, 75 points to their name, having drawn their last 3 games against Liverpool, West Ham and now Southampton at home. Man City themselves 2 games less than Arsenal on 30 games, 70 points to their name with 2 games in hand obviously over Arsenal. Like I said, if they win both those games in hand they will go 1 point clear of Arsenal, but crucially still do have to play each other at the Etihad on Wednesday night, I think it is, which is going to be an absolute blockbuster, one for the ages, going to be an absolute classic. And I think it's fair to say that if Arsenal at this moment in time want to realistically win the Premier League this season, they're probably going to have to beat Man City at the Etihad, because if you look at the remaining games, right, you'd have to expect that Arsenal and Man City will win the majority of those games individually in terms of the games they've got left, but City do have some tough games, in terms of the fact they've got Brighton to play away from home in that rescheduled game, which will probably be played in the midweek game before the last game of the season. Last game of the season they go to Brentford away, who they'll only be hoping are on the beach by that stage, given the fact that Brentford are a really tough team to beat, especially against the bigger teams, but yeah, probably won't have anything to play from the final day. So from an Arsenal perspective, you're looking at it from maybe even if they draw against Man City at the Etihad, that City might drop points against Brighton, but then in my opinion, if you're looking at Arsenal's run in, Newcastle away, which is going to be a really tough game for them, and to be honest I could see them only getting a draw from. Then you look at Nottingham Forest away in the penultimate game of the season, which yes, Forest has been really poor, but for some reason I can just feel like something might happen in that game. And look, in terms of writing off Arsenal's title challenge right now, I am not writing it off completely. I do still think Man City will win the league, like I've said for absolutely ages now. I've said it for weeks, if not months on end now, that Arsenal will bottle this title race, and pretty much everyone in their fucking nan said Arsenal would go on to win this league this season, and I was in the vast minority of people who said that Arsenal would not win the Premier League this season for reasons I've stated on this channel in terms of the mental edge and going against this absolute dog in City, which we've seen in recent weeks now. When they hit form, boy do they hit form. They absolutely dismantled one of the best teams in the world in Bayern Munich over 2 legs in the Champions League, have been on an absolutely unbelievable run in the Premier League right now, are dusting off teams left, right and centre, and dusting off teams in very good fashion as well, winning games in style, to be honest. And when you compare it to Arsenal, who in recent weeks have, in my opinion, crumbled, you see that 2-2 draw against Liverpool where they were 2-0 up after 20 minutes, and in hindsight after that game I was looking at that game and thinking, you know what, it's a good result, especially given the fact that Arsenal dug deep for the point and got lucky, which obviously championship winning teams have to do, with those saves from Ramsdale, which were absolutely world class, and the fact that Liverpool absolutely peppered them in that second half overall. But then drawing against West Ham when they were 2-0 up inside the first 15 minutes of the game is obviously not a good sign whatsoever, and then the same today, drawing 3-3 at home to the bottom of the league Southampton, it's not a good sign whatsoever. And I think, to be honest, in my opinion, I think one of the main things that's hindered Arsenal's title challenge in recent weeks and months, I think that Arsenal's players overall in recent times and recent weeks and months have bought into too much the concept that Arsenal may just win the Premier League this season. If you see Aaron Ramsdale, for example, who came out in the Fellas podcast a few months ago and was talking about, if we win the Premier League I'll do this or whatever, and if he's saying that on a podcast, what must they be saying to their friends and family or to themselves behind the scenes? Who knows? So I do feel like, given the fact that how unlikely it was at the start of the season and the expectation of Arsenal at the start of the season, which obviously wasn't to win the Premier League, I think it's fair to say, I think maybe they've let it get to within them a little bit too much, behind the scenes maybe, and that has caused them to freeze up and tense up a little bit. And yeah, that's why I've said for weeks now that I think Man City will win the league, and I stand by it still, obviously, and I will be one of the ones that will have got it right. One of the very few that will have got it right for pretty much the majority of the season, when Arsenal have been leading the way for pretty much the entire season. And like I said, pretty much everyone and their nan said Arsenal would win the league. But I was one of the ones that stood firm with Man City because of the reasons I've just said, and that's not against Arsenal whatsoever, because I will still give them credit even if they don't win the league at the end of the season, because I think they do deserve massive credit for the season they've had, given the expectation, as I said, at the start of the season. And yeah, like I said, I think getting top 4 this season would have been a brilliant achievement for Arsenal at the start of the season. So the season they've had overall, where they've dominated games, played some absolutely brilliant football, they've been top of the table for pretty much the whole of the season. They're still actually top of the table factually right now, even though City do have those 2 games in hand, which would move them above Arsenal. But in terms of, I think, what Arsenal players need to do right now, one thing they cannot afford to do is believe that it's over. They cannot afford to do that whatsoever, because it's not over. I still think there's 1 or 2 shocks left in this season. I think Arsenal are very capable of going to the Etihad on Wednesday and turning them over and getting a win. So I think that's very much a possibility if Arsenal can click and get in the right mind frame for that game on Wednesday night. And to be honest, I think that game against Man City will tell a whole lot about how equipped this Arsenal team are to go all the way in this Premier League title race. And I think if they do beat City on Wednesday night, I think they probably will win the league, but it is a big ask, especially against the City team who, like I said, have clicked at the right time and are showing absolute resilience of the highest order right now on all fronts that they're competing in. And yeah, it's going to be one hell of a title race now, and one hell of an achievement if Arsenal can now go on and win this Premier League title come the end of May. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below, Arsenal fans, Man City fans, and fans of every single club in existence, let me know who you think is going to prevail in this absolutely enthralling title challenge overall come the end of the season. Will it be Arsenal, or will it be the Dons from Manchester in Manchester City? And yeah, like I said, leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and also subscribe to the channel if you are new as well. We are looking to hit 3,000 subscribers on this channel as soon as we possibly can. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video, and yeah, chat to you later.